been told by Catherine I need to go ahead and speak, so I'm going to get that over with. Let me say first that I am better on paper than I am in person. And then let me talk a little bit about the festival. So I think my first festival, North Texas Book Festival, was it 2015 or 16?
16.
I think it was 16. It was 16. And so I came here and I didn't know anybody, and I had a book or two, maybe 3 out at that time, or maybe 2. I can't remember. But anyway, and so I was kind of a younger, aspiring writer, and I came and I had a really neat time, and it kind of changed the trajectory. Am I still on? I changed the trajectory of my sort of writing career, because I met this weird guy, like 2 tables down, this cool guy 2 tables down, who was a slot horror filmmaker, and he was also a writer. And so he and I got to talking, and we talked about all the authors we liked, and the stuff we read, and some of the horror in Texas. And so then all of a sudden, we were talking about the fact that there'd never been an anthology of Texas horror, and that was unfortunate. We bemoaned that fact because there were so many great Texas horror writers, including Joe R. Lansdale and Robert E. Howard of Conan fame, even O. Henry, lots of big names. So he and I decided to create this horror anthology. His name is Brett McCormick. He's sitting here helping me out. Anyway, we decided to create this horror anthology, and we called it Roadkill Texas Horror for Texas Writers. And it was born right here at this festival. And what's interesting about that is that at the time, well, this isn't interesting about that, but at the time, we were trying to I think it was like in April that we finally decided to put it together. And so we only had like 6 months before Halloween, wanted to get it out before Halloween. And I had written a screenplay for Joe R. Lansdale. Does anybody know who Joe R. Lansdale is? You guys are killing me. Has anybody heard of Bubba Hotep?
Yes. Yeah.
That's Joe R. Lansdale. Also the Happen Leonard series on Sundance, and Cold in July with Michael C. Hall. He's like the Stephen King of Texas. He's probably also the James Patterson of Texas, but he's sort of a big name. But anyway, I'd written a screenplay for him, and when we decided to do this anthology, I begged him for a story, and he sent me one of his collections, said, take what you want. I don't think I took the best one, but I took one. It just paid me like the rest of the writers, so he was really cool. And so we got this thing out in October of, was it 16 or 15?
2016.
2016. And now we're on volume 7, and I would argue, and I don't think I would get too much argument with the fact that it may be, if not just the premier horror anthology of Texas, it may be one of the best literary anthologies in Texas, because we get some of the best writers. In fact, this time around, I paid for the rights to use a Catherine M. Porter story. She's also from Texas, and she wrote a little horror. But we've had Robert E. Howard, O. Henry, Stephen Graham Jones, and Lansdale, and then we have all these new writers that have never been published before. Anybody's allowed to submit, and the rules are, it has to be based in Texas and written by somebody from Texas, or who's lived in Texas or lives in Texas now. So it's really cool. Also, David Bowles, the border writer. He's written so much good stuff I can't even think of all of it. But he's won a bunch of awards now. But anyway, so it's really cool. And so the birth of it happened here at the North Texas Book Festival with Brett. And it sort of changed the trajectory a little bit of what I was doing, because I was writing nonfiction. And some of it was pretty dark nonfiction. And since then, I've gone on to write some different kinds of nonfiction, including travel. But the horror anthology has become a kind of a big deal. And I'm really proud of it. I think Brett is too. And it's a big deal here in Texas. And, people think we're kind of a big deal because of it. And like I said, I just want to emphasize that it all happened here when I didn't know a soul when I walked in the door. And I also met Tui Snyder, who's kind of a travel writer, offbeat travel writer. She wrote the book about the Aurora incident. Great lady. She was here in 2016 too, and that's how I wound up writing 100 Things to Do in Texas Before You Die, because she referred them to me. She said, you should talk to this guy about writing one of these books. And so she did, and so I kind of almost backed into a networking situation too. So this is a unique event in my opinion, and it's more sort of personal and intimate than the Texas Book Festival, which I've also done. And so I'm a big fan, and I'm a big fan of Catherine's, and I enjoy coming up here. It's been a little while, but anyway, so I'm going to make my remarks now. Prepare food to throw at me, okay? So, writer Don DeLillo once wrote that reading poetry makes us conscious of breathing. I can't imagine a better way to put it. The last time I fell in love, really in love, it was not with a girl or a woman, no offense to my wife. It was with a smattering of words on a printed page. I think it was in junior high this happened. It presaged what love would be like. It said, love is a jigsaw sunset, and you are the piece that holds the sun. P-E-A-C-E. You are the piece that holds the sun. It said, the best gesture of my brain is less than the flutter of your eyelids, which whisper, we are for each other. It took my breath away and then gave it back, deeper, more meaningful. I wanted to take in as much of it as I could. While other kids were dreaming about throwing or catching the winning touchdown pass, or chasing after the boy who threw or caught the winning touchdown pass, I discovered trunkless legs of stone in a faraway desert. I wandered the stately pleasure dome of Kublai Khan and pondered fears of what would happen if I ceased to be. My eyes widened, and the narrows of obviousness rapidly became too confining. I never idolized Luke Skywalker. I didn't want to be Roger Staubach or Michael Jordan or Dr. J. If you're my age, you know who Dr. J is. I wanted to be Poe. I wanted to be Keats or Shelley or Yeats or Emily Dickinson. I wanted to communicate to people in a way that made them conscious of breathing. Now today, for me, air intake is once again just an involuntary reflex. Consciousness of it is something we attempt to force on our kids in school or college, but it seldom sticks. And perhaps it was always so. It's been more than 200 years since Wordsworth noted that devoting our lives to getting and spending lays waste to our spirits. And we're still mostly just getting and spending and wasting our spirits. There's not a business department in the land that will tell you that breathing is more important than getting and spending, especially when it's someone else's breathing. Society pays no praise nor wages for the sullen art I love because it taught me to love and breathe lovingly. And I know I've become a boring anachronism, but I feel compelled to resist. Most Instagrammers don't know much grammar. And most tweeters are twits. The ironic truth about iPads and iPhones is that more people are communicating, but less is being said, especially less meaningful things, or less meaningful stuff, much less being understood. These gadgets truncate our thought processes and abridge cognition. They represent a strain of expedience that might be useful in an immediate sense, but will likely be detrimental in the long haul. And learning is a long, never-ending story. This is no time for intellectual slang. Look around. The ceremony of innocence is being drowned. The best lack all conviction, and the worst are full of passionate intensity. The mob may be incited or mollified by a text or tweet, but it will not be moved in a meaningful direction. That requires elucidation and crafted cogence. Percy Shelley may have overshot the mark when he said that poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world, but even if it isn't true, it should be. The world is so much with us that we fail to grasp the importance of the moment. we live in, and so we exist oblivious to the repercussions. We don't need more pundits or politicians or profiteers. We don't need unlimited text or data or more folks following us on Twitter. We need to be more conscious of our breathing. We must become more mindful of our interconnectedness with everything and everyone around us. There's no hope for us as a single party, a single cause, a single country. There's no hope for us as a single religion. There's no hope for us as a single ethnicity or a favored species. Our only hope lies in collective conscience and broad concert. Instead of getting and spending, we need to do more reading and listening and thinking. Instead of ceding conviction to brainwashed miscreants and manipulative scoundrels, we need to speak out and rise up, inspired and informed, and therefore indomitable. It's been said that the role of journalism is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. I agree with that, by the way. A writer I much admire goes much further, metaphorically discussing poetry along the same lines. He says, a poet's work is to name the unnameable, to point at frauds, to take sides, start arguments, shape the world, and stop the world from going to sleep. He adds, a poem can't stop a bullet, and a novel can't defuse a bomb, but we are not helpless. We can sing the truth and name the liars. That writer's name was Salman Rushdie, and he was stabbed 15 times a week ago yesterday for doing exactly that, singing the truth and naming the liars. Know ye this, you are fiercer than any religious fanatic, or firearm advocate, or pandering politico, or spandex MMA or UFC fighter. The pen is still mightier than the sword. We are intellectuals, and our power to create meaningfully renders uninformed passions and pointless prejudice ineffectual. So if perchance you seek out one of us, and one day we meet, do your worst, but never doubt that our verse will be useful forever and your violence is obsolete. We need more eloquence and profundity. We need more poets. And we need more wordsmiths like all of you. I am a jigsaw sunset. You are the piece that holds the sun. Thanks.